Welcome classmates and Professor Edwards to our final project presentation. I'm Stephanie Summersett.
I'm Andrea Hernandez.
I am Brianna Hernandez.
I'm Irene Rivera.
I'm Lizbeth Gil.
And I'm Michelle Sanchez.
And we are group number 22. Our topic today is problem solving and creativity. Some of our learning goals for this presentation are understanding play within pedagogical culture, exploring the importance of children's creativity, and we hope to give you all a few real-world applications to enhance children's creativity. But first, we will review our Week 11 readings.
All right, so the first article will be Bard et al., and this article has done an experiment to test how mind wandering can lead to more creative thinking. There were 145 participants aged from 19 to 32. They were randomly selected to work on 2 unusual use tasks, and then the study reported that an inclination period, which leads to mind wandering, helps improve performance on creativity tasks. And then the next article was McNeil, and this article focused more on the education of the children who were having trouble. It mainly talks about the development of children's performance on the mathematics equivalent problems. The performance improves more with the age and when you get the more understanding of the mathematics. Studies found common solutions for each problem based on how the children solve them. Algebra is very critical to future education and employment opportunities. And then the next is the TED Talk with Sir Ken Robinson, and he talks about how creativity is killed by schools. He had made a major point talking about how creativity is very important to education. Many people kill kids' creativity young, telling them the truth of what they're drawing or correcting their wrong answers to the right one. By doing so, they have the thought that we can never be wrong, and which kills the creativity of the children. And then the Module 11 lectures. During this lectures, the main points were the definition of creativity and education. Creativity ties into divergent thinking, which is the ability to generate multiple answers to a set of problems, the ability to think beyond experience. Creativity is important for us every day because it leads us to generate new ideas that help us with daily tasks. It also trains us to think efficiently through concept knowledge, schemas, and working memory.
So the additional reading that we added was titled Exploring the Pedagogic Culture of Creative Play in Early Childhood Education. And so it explores what pedagogic culture is, which is an explicit conceptualization, recognition, and application of ecological elements that frame the practice around play-based learning in early childhood education. So pretty much what that means is that play is fundamental. Just as child development theorists Reggio Emilia and Tay Wairiki have stated, play and creativity are the projection and demonstration of cognitive and metacognitive development. Play is more than what toys a child plays with. With the Montessori method, they really focus on open-ended wooden toys, that natural toys that foster more creativity, imagination, and problem solving. And versus modern toys, they're very limited and they impose restrictions on what a child is learning and how they interact with the toy. So if, for example, if a child's playing with like wooden blocks, the wooden blocks could be anything. They could be a person, a doll, food, a building. The child is creating the concepts and the context of the play. And with the natural colors of like blocks is very calming and it's not overstimulating. Meanwhile, like toys like a leapfrog stuffed animal, for example, it has buttons and colors, and while it may be teaching a child different things, it is still limiting to a child on what they are learning and not allowing the child to create their own concepts and new ideas. And also the colors can be overstimulating for a child, even a neurotypical children. So play within pedagogic culture standards. The pedagogue or the educator will scaffold the children's experiences in proximal and distal ways. And so the proximal will be face-to-face and distal being indirect through resources and space considerations. And so there are 3 standards that the pedagogic culture follows. The first one would be space, which is a classroom environment, and the aesthetics of the classroom environment and the way the classroom is set up with different sections, and the furnishings, the light-colored walls, natural materials. The classroom environment can either be overstimulating or calming for a child, and so classrooms with rainbows and educational posters and colorful carpets can be overstimulating, and it can lead to children to having, in general, like screaming and like overactive and temper tantrums. And, we're a classroom environment that has natural lighting, natural colors, and materials is very calming, and it creates a quiet environment for the children to better focus on creative play. With interpersonal collaborations, it is it discusses more of adult structured versus free choice or child-led play. Um, so this would be example, uh, giving a child blocks and asking them to create something, versus giving a child blocks and letting them create whatever they want and having no goal, just the goal being the child leading the play. And then toys and resources and materials. This is still under debate right now and being reevaluated by developmental theorists, parents, and teachers, just because they're trying to decide what was appropriate for the older generations. And then with technology rising, they're trying to see if technology is helping or is it stifling creativity. But with that, there's still open-ended toys and resources such as wooden blocks or, pieces that put together to make something. So within the article, they explored children's creativity by two different settings, in a nursery and a science museum. The nursery was a playful group setting with 2 rooms, and it was very colorful and vibrant, very noisy because there was a lot of children and adults allowed in, but it still allowed for child play and child-initiated pedagogy. And the science museum was very small, closed off from the public, and it was called the Pod, and it was very quiet with very little distractions and had very few resources available for the children. And they were given, all the children that were attending the study, they were given the same construction resources. They were given open-ended resources such as traditional just wooden blocks, natural tree logs, and pieces of loose fabric. They're also given closed structured items, such as pieces of plastic that interlocked that created a remote control vehicle, as well as another assemble set that also was another controlled vehicle. For the findings for the article, they were analyzing 4 different things on the children. They were analyzing the engagement, the involvement, the persistence of children playing, and their enjoyment. So with the space, the nursery was very loud and busy and packed with children, and it had many resources, but so many resources was actually not beneficial because it led to a fleeting and short-lived creative play for the children. And the science museum was actually very quiet, and with the few resources it offered, it meant that it was free of clutter and offered more free choice. And the environment just allowed for more of an immersed creative play for extended periods of time for all the children. With the interpersonal connections, they saw a lot of sustained shared thinking. What this is, with child and child interactions, they were vibrant, flowing, open, unstructured, and dynamic interactions. The children were playing together, were focused on collaboration around one central theme, and they also had an evolution of new ideas that fed off each other and fueled more creative play. But with adult-child interactions, they still had the sustained shared thinking, but it was structured. They had a pre-planned goal, and it didn't leave room for any new ideas to flourish. And for the resources and material, the closed structured toys were limiting, but as the children grew more familiar with the items, more creative play was actually seen. And the open-ended toys allowed for more creativity because they were so familiar with the materials already.
Creativity and problem solving play a very big role in 2 important child development theories. Creativity and problem solving increase peer collaborations, child to child and adult to child, where children ask more questions. These ideas connect to Lev Vygotsky's social cultural theory that learning is a social process. He believed that human development is a socially meditated process in which children acquire their cultural values, beliefs, and problem solving strategies through collaborations with more knowledgeable members of society. Creativity and problem solving also improve critical thinking. Children become confident and familiar in using their resources in innovative ways, therefore increasing their knowledge and perceptions when solving problems. Familiarity allows for efficiency. Children also begin building off old ideas instead of following a set of instructions. This is called the evolution of new ideas. They also begin divergent thinking, which is the ability to think beyond experience. These improvements connect to John Piaget's theory of cognitive development in the formal operational stage. This is the stage where children begin to manipulate ideas on their own. This is important because it's the last stage of development in Piaget's theory. This stage determines how a child will develop into adulthood.
Okay, everyone. So there are two parts to consider when answering why these topics are important at all. So we want to apply the impacts of these topics to and communicate them directly to the people who are going to care about it in the first place. So in other words, we want to ask who will care about this information and why they need to know this. Teachers, researchers, child development professionals like children's psychologists and child development theorists, parents, and society. Another question we want to answer is why should they care? First off, teachers will want to care about this information because obviously children spend a lot of time with their teachers throughout their developing years. So teachers would like to know that schools are killing creativity. So when this information is communicated to them, they want to learn how to eliminate educational fixedness and encourage more creative thinking in their classrooms. Furthermore, with these other topics in mind, they would want to apply them in their classrooms where they want to promote creative thinking for problem solving, such as the math equivalence problems mentioned in one of our readings, so that their cognitive is developed enough to answer these problems with more than one way to reach that answer. Second, researchers would want to know this information because they want to further support these theories or to probably critique them and disprove them. Another reason would be, for example, further researching the phenomenon of U-shaped development in math equivalence performance. Like, why do these children have a high development in math problem solving, and then their development decreases, then to just turn around and become more developed again when they get older, instead of just developing, like progressing more throughout the years. Thirdly, child development professionals will want to care about this information because, like I said, children's psychologists will like to provide answers as to why children with HDHD have better performance on creativity than children who don't have any learning disabilities. Obviously, parents would want to know this information because parents are the main caregivers of children and the primary social group of where these kids learn. They learn at home. That's their first classroom. So, for example, if parents were knowing that they were hindering creativity by correcting their children and criticizing their drawings, just like Andrea mentioned earlier in the presentation, they can learn to move away from these social problems and approach it in a different way for their children to increase creativity. And lastly, society would care to know about this because that way we can explain certain social issues and apply these topics to reverse those issues. For example, knowing that incubation periods allow for better creativity, we can then apply that perhaps in the workforce. That way we can perform better and create new solutions to problems.
Real-world applications, how problem solving and creativity can be applied to the real world. Brainstorming is where children can generate new ideas, and this can be a part of fluent thinking. For example, a teacher wants to incorporate all of his students' learning abilities, so he creates a poll to ask students their preferred way of learning so he can get a sense of what they like. Creative thinking is the heart of problem solving, having the ability to see different ways of doing something, like using new materials and generating new ideas, like asking wide open questions that have many right answers. For example, asking a child to name everything that is blue. Critical thinking is breaking an idea into parts and analyzing them. Comparing similarities and sorting are things that everyone does every day. You can apply this to a child's real life by encouraging conversation about differences and similarities. When going to the market, you can ask your child how their shoes are different from someone else's. High-quality play is a real-world application and fosters creativity, imagination, and problem solving.
Thank you for listening.